Since September, talk has been growing about whether the U.S. might finally supply Ukraine with the long-requested Tomahawk cruise missiles. And on October 6th, Donald Trump said he had kind of made the decision. "I think I want to find out what they're doing with them, where they're sending them, I guess." "I have to ask that question," Trump told reporters in the Oval Office. The Tomahawk is a subsonic, long-range cruise missile designed for precision strikes against land targets. It has an operational range between 1,600 and 2,500 kilometers, though experts believe any version Ukraine receives could be limited to 1,700 kilometers. Experts say these long-range weapons, if approved, would allow Ukraine to strike military targets deep inside Russia and increase pressure on Vladimir Putin, giving Kyiv stronger leverage in future peace negotiations. They would be a powerful addition to Ukraine's arsenal, something the country largely lacks at the moment. Emil Castahelmi, an analyst at the Finland-based Blackbird Group monitoring the war closely through open sources, told the Kyiv Independent. For now, Ukraine relies mostly on domestically produced long-range drones to hit targets deep inside Russia. Weapons that carry tens, not hundreds of kilograms of explosives. If Ukraine gets a large number of these missiles, it would be a difficult thing for Russia because the Tomahawks would cover a great area of land where there is a huge number of high-value targets, which Ukraine could then strike with greater damage, Castahelmi said. So, of course, it's in the Kremlin's interest not to allow Ukraine to actually have Tomahawks, at least not in great numbers, he added. The very discussion has already drawn sharp reactions from Moscow. Russian President Vladimir Putin warned that any supply of Tomahawks would destroy the emerging positive trends in U.S.-Russian relations. The supply of long-range missile systems, including Tomahawks, to Ukraine will lead to the destruction of the emerging positive trends in relations between Russia and the United States, Putin said. If supplied without major targeting caveats, Tomahawks could significantly increase pressure on Russia's air defense system. Justin Bronk, senior research fellow at the Royal United Services Institute, told the Kyiv Independent. He said that Russia would have to spread out its air defense coverage to protect command centers, air bases, and logistical sites deep inside the country, a task already pushed by Ukraine's long-range drone attacks. Tomahawk offers far larger and more capable warhead effects than Ukraine's long-range UAVs, far greater terminal accuracy than its indigenously developed Flamingo cruise missiles, and far greater range than the Anglo-French Storm Shadow, or SCALP, Bronk said. Emil Castahelmi added that large-scale Tomahawk strikes could force Moscow to prioritize and decentralize some of their assets and operations, especially those linked to oil refineries, logistics, and training facilities. The missiles could accelerate Ukraine's campaign against oil infrastructure. They could do very significant damage. We're talking hundreds of kilograms of explosives, not just tens like in drones, Castahelmi said. The scale of such strikes would challenge Russia's defenses in ways that drone attacks never could. That would be a real headache for the Russians, he added. Machine guns used for anti-air purposes don't work against missiles. You actually need anti-air missiles to repel the kind of threat that Tomahawks would bring. The question remains whether the U.S. will actually send them, and while even the prospect has already had an impact, their delivery alone would not change its course overnight. Any one weapon system isn't usually really a game changer. It's more about the larger dynamics at play, said Emil Castahelmi. He noted that one of the key questions is how many missiles Ukraine would actually receive and whether it could replenish them if supplies run out. In the case of Tomahawks, one of the most significant questions is in what numbers Ukraine would get them. And if Ukraine runs out of Tomahawk missiles, would they be able to acquire them relatively easily? Castahelmi said. Justin Bronk agreed that while Tomahawks could intensify pressure on Russia, they are no magic bullet. They can be intercepted like any other cruise missile, and it's unlikely they would suddenly make a strategic difference to the dynamics of the war in its fourth year, he said. Still, their impact may not be limited to the battlefield. Some analysts believe the very discussion around Tomahawks could shape the broader course of the conflict, influencing both military planning and political calculations in Moscow and Washington. It's possible the U.S. wants to show Russia that there's real damage to be done if they don't act accordingly. And the Tomahawk is one of the best political statements to make that point, Castahelmi said. It could be used as a bargaining tool when the United States tries to persuade Russia into some kind of ceasefire agreement, and later, perhaps, a peace deal. Putin is worried about potential Tomahawk deliveries, that is for sure. Putin responded to Trump's suggestion of possibly supplying Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine by accusing him of bluffing and calling it blackmail. In turn, Putin said Russia would strengthen its air defenses.
Stanislav Ivashchenko, Zvezda TV channel. In Kyiv, Zelensky threatened to strike Russia with Tomahawks almost at the Kremlin. He says just won't strike. It all depends, and they even say that this is some form of bluffing, blackmailing Russia.
You did not mention, and bluffing too.
Thank you.
Well, and there's some bluff here.
And this regarding part, the question is, they say, okay, the Americans say that everything depends. Whether they will transfer Tomahawks or not, it all depends on Russia's negotiating position on Ukraine. And if our negotiating positions do not satisfy them, they will transfer them. Is our response to this ready?
Our response is the strengthening of the air defense system of the Russian Federation.
Well, I wasn't expecting this. Melania Trump. President Putin and I have had an open channel of communication.
President Putin and I have had an open channel of communication regarding the welfare of these children. For the past 3 months, both sides have participated in several back-channel meetings and calls, all in good faith. We have agreed to cooperate with each other for the benefit of all people involved in this war.
And something from the front at the end. Ukrainian border guards in southern Ukraine destroyed 3 Russian positions and vehicles in a targeted operation. In southern Ukraine, fighting remains intense along the Zaporizhzhia and Kherson fronts. Ukrainian forces continue targeting Russian logistics and artillery positions with precision strikes, disrupting supply lines along the Dnipro River. Meanwhile, Russian troops are trying to fortify defensive lines near Tomahawk and Verbova, fearing renewed Ukrainian offensives. Daily drone and artillery duels dominate the battlefield, with both sides suffering steady losses, but Ukraine maintaining tactical pressure across multiple sectors.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.